Hey there, my name's Pete and I like pictures, as you probably know. I got a question, actually it was more like a suggestion on my blog, which is of course TVOOM.tumblr.com, you know, TVOOM.tumblr.com, by my friend Amy Montico, and she asked whether I could make a video about the histogram, how to use it, really make it basic and simple. And yeah, I wanted to make a video like that for quite a while, but I was procrastinating because I feared that I would be rambling along. And so, but now I have to do it, and I gladly do it, of course. So this will be not one video, it will be a couple. There will be a couple of videos. In the first one, this one, I will try to explain the basics of the histogram. In the second one, we're going to go a bit deeper. And in the third one, I will show you how to use the histogram even while shooting. And I think I have a couple of neat little tricks for you to figure out exposure, or the exact exposure that you want, because it's about nothing else in photography. It's about what you want. So here we go. In this first video about the basics of the histogram, I have put together a couple of black and white photos simply because it's a bit easier to explain the basics with black and white photos in Lightroom. So we're going to talk about color in one of the following videos. So what is the histogram? What does the histogram show us? Let's take this photo, and the histogram is basically nothing else than a depiction of the distribution of brightness values. What does that mean? Every digital photo consists of a large amount of pixels. In my case, since I do have the Canon EOS 700D, the T5i, which shoots at 18 megapixels if I shoot full resolution, each of these 18 million pixels has a certain brightness value that ranges from pure black, 0% brightness, to pure white, which is 100% brightness, of course. And each of these pixels in my photo can have one of these brightness values. And that is what the histogram shows us, how they are distributed in the photo. The histogram is a graph with an x-axis and a y-axis. And on the x-axis, we do see on the far left pure blacks, dark shadows, in the middle the midtones, and on the right the highlights and the whites. So what do we see here? We see we do not really have pure blacks. There's a slight little gap in here, and we do not have pure whites. There's a gap in here. And that information is neutral. It only shows what is there. I did a bit of research on the web, of course, before I started to record that video, and I found a lot of bullshit. I'm sorry to say. No, I'm not even sorry to say that, because it was really crap. There are people out there who tell you your photos, the perfect histogram for your photos looks like this, or the perfect histogram for your photos looks like that. A proper exposed photo shows a histogram that looks like this. Bullshit, forget about that. The only thing that is really important is that while shooting, try to not accidentally blow out highlights and try to not accidentally crush blacks. Because if you blow out highlights and if you crush blacks, that is information that you will never get back in case you want to get them back. If you do want to have crushed blacks, real, pure, deep blacks, then do it. If you want to have blown out highlights, then do it. If that is what you want, then there's nothing wrong with blowing out highlights. There's nothing wrong with crushing blacks. Sometimes in very difficult lighting situations, if you do not have the chance to shoot HDR, or you do not want to shoot HDR, there's even no chance to not do it. So there's nothing wrong with that. The important thing to have in mind, though, is that you do not do that accidentally, because it can be that you sit at home import your photos to Lightroom and you see, oh damn, I have crushed blacks. I want to see more in that area, but there's nothing more there because it's crushed. Same goes for the highlights. Oh, the highlights are blown out. The sky is blown out. There's no information in the clouds. It's only pure white areas. So that is the crucial thing. But we're gonna talk about that in a separate video, how to avoid that while shooting, how to expose your photos exactly the way you want, because that is the only right and correct exposure, the exposure you want. And we do that with the help of the histogram. But before we do that, we have to, of course, talk about the basics first. So, okay, we said this is what this histogram looks like. Let's take a look at that photo. The histogram looks slightly different. We have that spike on the far left, meaning we have a lot of dark tones, a lot of dark shadows, maybe even blacks in here. We do not have so many darker shadows in here, so we have blacks, and then it goes to the upper shadows. Here we have a lot of midtones, or comparatively a lot of midtones, and we have a very little amount of highlights and whites in here. That is what the histogram says. That is neutral. The information is neutral. Let's take a look at a different photo. Yeah, comparatively similar. We have blacks, we have shadows, we have brighter shadows, lower midtones, very little amount of brightness value, highlights, and very little amount or no whites at all. So here we do not have any shadows at all. This is a low contrast picture, but we do have a lot of midtones and we have a bit of highlights, no whites. That is how I wanted the picture to look like. So this is okay. You might like it or not, but that is what I wanted to achieve. Let's check here. Takes a bit. No real blacks, lots of shadows, little amount of midtones, a spike here in the highlights. See that the sky in the water here, and no real whites as well. So that is what the histogram says. There's one thing, same goes for this one. No blacks, very little amount of shadows, a spike or a piled up range of higher midtones and a lot of highlights, no real whites. So that is what the histogram tells us. There's one neat little thing that I want to show you, and let's take this one. Yes, see, blacks, shadows, almost no midtones, almost no highlights, almost no whites. If we go to the develop module, and if we mouse over the histogram, we even see, if you look here, blacks, shadows, exposure. Exposure is the midtone range, highlights, whites. And these, but we're going to talk about that in the next video, probably the next video, maybe the one after that. These areas are connected to the sliders in the basic tab. So blacks, you see black slider. You see if I move over, mouse over the slider, you see it shows blacks. Same goes in reverse. If I mouse over that area of the histogram, the black slider gets lit up. So now you see, if you look closely, there's this, oops, there's this little triangle on the left. And if I mouse over it, parts of the picture become blue. Those show crushed blacks, clipped blacks. It is the shadow clipping. The shadow clipping. And if we click that, they stay permanent. So if you take a look here below the histogram, and if we mouse over these blue areas, we see red 0, green 0, blue 0%. No information, pure black. See what I mean? So that is an indicator. Why is that important? It is important because there's one of the very few real pieces of advice that I want to give you in my videos and in my ramblings. Never ever trust your camera's display. Never ever trust your screen, because even if you do have a calibrated monitor, it is never really accurate. So the only way to really get sure that blacks are crushed or highlights are blown out, we're going to take a look at blown out highlights in a separate picture, is that the highlight clipping or the shadow clipping shows blue. So you know that is really pure black. That comes in very handy if you really want to have deep blacks or pure whites. So that is a nice little thing. And of course, and I can show you that already, if we move the black slider, if we do not want to have black clip blacks, we can move the slider as long to the right until the blue completely disappears, so that we still have picture information in all parts of the picture. So that even in if someone has a monitor that is a bit brighter, they see information in there, still something there. You still have a feeling of texture in these parts. It's not pure black. So same goes for highlights. Takes a bit. Why does it take a bit? Let's take that photo. I think it's easier in here. Let's go into the develop module. Let's just raise the whites a bit. See, I mouse over that and I see red areas. I mouse over them. You see red 100% in here, green 100%, blue 100%, pure white. For my taste, it's a bit too bright. Some might like it. If you do like it, go with it. The thing is, if I would have shot that picture in JPEG, JPEG does not hold as much information as RAW does, for example. So if that would be the picture that I got out of my camera, decreasing the whites would not lead to showing me more information. It would just darken down the white. So I'd have a gray area instead of a white area. So that's why it's so important to not clip blacks or not clip highlights, or crush blacks and not clip highlights while shooting, so that you still have information in there that you can use in post-processing. We're going to talk more about the histogram in the next video. This one's for today. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And if you want to maybe comment on my video and maybe like them, you can also share that on other social media if you want to. I'm not on Facebook, but if you're on Facebook and you like my videos, please share them. Okay, this was for today. Bye till next time. To not miss any of those videos, you can subscribe to this channel.